Welcome to the Seller Roundtable e-commerce coaching and business strategies with Andy Arnott and Amy Wees.
Like that, but that's the thing. Walmart has had all these years and they've got tons and tons of resources to catch up. And I mean, no one I worked with at Amazon was ever courted by Walmart.com. You know, they waited about 6 or 7 years and then they hired Mark Laurie. And then is he even in charge of that operation? I mean, what's going on with their online presence? It's so far behind. Amazon doesn't feel like you have anywhere that you're really going to go.
Right.
For at least 6 or 7 or 8 years. And if that's the monopoly status that they have, then everything could change in 6 or 7 or 8 years. They can't worry about something that's almost a decade away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If anything, they see trends in terms of how they can build their own brands based on the data they've learned from you, based on buying and selling trends that they've observed 15 years and counting in the marketplace. Eventually, they're going to have more successful brands than they have today. And they'll just start eating their way through sales by independent sellers year over year. And then as you look at the big picture, they're going to start eating their way more through overall retail, global retail, never mind just e-commerce. And they've got the fulfillment centers and the warehouses to do it, and the headcount they can just keep adding, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they also, I've talked about this a lot before though, but honestly, I really think that, there's some serious opportunity out there for somebody like Facebook or even TikTok or somebody like that to go in and buy, say, hey, we're going to buy UPS or FedEx or whoever, or partner with them or, whatever, and then spin up a marketplace, make it, actually have some customers, some seller support, actually have, easy processes on how to get stuff online, charge a reasonable rate, all these things that I
wouldn't
think,
they use automation though? Wouldn't they be kind of using the same tricks in terms of, I mean, think of it on a seller level, like people start using VAs more and people start using automation more.
Sure.
Yeah. Wouldn't any company do that at this point?
Well, absolutely. But I feel like so if you're building an e-commerce platform today compared to when Amazon was built, just at the core, you can literally go and cherry pick all the best processes from, like, just for example, ShipStation, right? Like we use ShipStation all the time. It's by far, like, imagine if Amazon had a shipping interface like ShipStation, right? Like, to me, I think with really smart acquisitions and building a platform from scratch, that you could really kind of reinvent e-commerce. I mean, not only that, look at the Chinese. Some of the stuff the Chinese are doing on their platforms is unbelievable. They have tons of automation, but it actually works because they're, innovating at a speed that, we used to be the innovators. Now, China is starting to eat our lunch when it comes to innovation, because they fail fast, right? They've really kind of embraced that mentality of fail fast, try stuff, see what works, see what doesn't, go back to the drawing board, and then relaunch and just, wash, rinse, repeat.
I think what you described is what's going to happen. Instead of 25 people that are quickly reviewing seller performance appeals and deciding to reinstate or not, you're more likely going to have 5 people who are better trained and maybe even have been there for a few years at least, making some decisions, and the lower level stuff's going to be automated. And I think Andy Jassy's probably looking at shrinking those teams a little bit along those lines too. That would be my guess. Can you do that feasibly and do it right and do it effectively with this kind of marketplace related? I mean, investigations can partially be done with automation, but you still need some analytical thinking. Now, the problem with Amazon is they've been training seller performance investigators to be robots. So if you're going to just make people into robots, you may as well just use robots and use automation. That's going to be their argument. Well, we're getting the same bang for our buck with automation versus having people that we actually hired, which is kind of an excuse for them to make. But that's true. They've watered things down, whether it's communication, like I said, SOPs, tools, and creating new tools and how they're used. They've watered down the training and all of these things to the point where they really just have, people kind of taking quick looks at stuff, making a quick decision, maybe based on real information, maybe based on bits of information that don't form a whole, and then moving on to the next one. And they're just kind of turning them into those robotic approach vehicles. And they're not thinking intelligent people who are like, this seller's been on the platform for 6 years.
Right.
This seller's only had a couple of complaints out of 10,000 orders that said the item was used, sold as new, or the item wasn't authentic. That's, they have way less than 5% return rates. So they use all this data, but they don't interpret it and analyze it correctly. And they don't retrain these guys to do it that way. They do it quickly. They don't do it responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to bash on them completely. Like, they've had some wins. I mean, the seller feedback tool is actually pretty decent. I mean, they automated that and actually it offloaded a lot of work for sellers having to go in there and manually do that. That being said, it's not perfect. And if the AI makes a mistake, it's almost impossible to open a ticket now to say, wait a minute, the AI got this wrong.
Right.
So once again, I mean, I absolutely think that it's doable, but the way that they're going about it, like I want to go back to the analogy of the autopilot, right? Like that's pretty much, seller feedback on autopilot, but there still needs to be a thing that says, okay, I want this isn't quite right. You guys got to fix this. So, I mean, how they get there, I'm not sure. The growth here is insane. I completely agree with you that their filtering system is to, take the cream of the crop in terms of, people getting shipments out on time, people answering customer service on time, people, not sending new items, all the stuff that, people like me, we've done for years. So it's not a big deal, but somebody starting out, it's, some of the people I consult, it's like, they didn't even know half the stuff exists, like brand registry and GTINX exemptions and, all these things that are available on the platforms, just that there's no help.
Yeah. And they would, of course, turn that around and say, nobody reads this stuff before they start selling. They think they're going to learn by doing. And of course, they're not hospitable to that. If you learn by doing, you're going to make mistakes and get suspended. And then you're going to blame them. That's how they view it. You're going to blame them for things you should have done.
Right.
So, and you're going to say they're overly punitive. So, I mean, I do tell people when they're starting out, like, have a thick skin and be ready, hold on to your seat, because they are going to be punitive with you. They are going to be disciplinary minded. They're not going to be customer friendly towards sellers anytime soon. They might say they're interested in doing that when they're testifying in front of Congress, but short of that, they're going to keep doing things the way they like to do them. And if you don't like it, they're going to say you can leave. I mean, that's their attitude.
Yeah.
They don't admit that, in so many words, but that's the public representation that we see. And they don't audit the quality of investigations anymore. If they do, it's not in a significant or meaningful way. They might say they audit randomly investigators who are reading your POA, your plan of action, or looking at your appeal. But is it in a way that appreciates the fact that you're suspended and you've been down for 3 weeks? And it probably could have been 1 week if somebody read your plan of action the first time? No, of course not. Right. That's the major, and who knows, we have an incoming CEO. We should be hopeful that there are improvements. We're not sure we can expect them, but maybe there is some fresh blood coming in, somebody who will understand that it doesn't make sense the way it's currently working. And they can't blame you. Like, you went to your PPC manager. Obviously, people hire us to escalate things. Probably more than 50% of what we do is just not just writing an appeal, but taking somebody who's stuck and getting their appeal in front of somebody meaningful. Those workarounds wouldn't be necessary if it was done right the first time. That's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I am hopeful in terms of, like I said, I'm a software guy, right? And there are some great solutions that I think that they can do. I mean, even
the request to review tool.
Absolutely.
That's been fairly well received. So that's
absolutely. I mean, like I said, they've done some positive things, but number one, that I think they are, they're not concentrating on the right things, right? I mean, to me, one of their biggest issues is listings. It has been for years. I mean, just to get a parent-child relationship up. I mean, finally you can do it via the UI now, but I mean, for years that was like, I mean, I probably logged, 3 months of my life just on Excel sheets trying to fix parent-child relationships early on. I mean, it's an absolute mess.
You're a hardy soul.
Yeah, it was brutal. That's, like I said, that's probably one of the least favorite things I've ever had to do in terms of the Amazon business.
Mm,
And back then it was so new that it was even hard to find people to know how to do it. I mean,
yeah.
but the other part of the problem is, I got on the phone with a client the other day and I had to literally step the agent through the Amazon UI to get them to the information that we needed them to see. He was trying to
Yeah.
send books overseas, and part of them, through seller fulfillment, and it blocked part of
You
the
mean the
shipment.
catalog rep for Amazon? You were
No, it was just the seller support, just a standard seller
okay.
support
Okay.
number, and it was somebody overseas, no big deal, but
Mhm.
but they were literally clueless. Like, how are you going to help me if I know more than you? I can walk, I have to walk you through the interface. I have to
Yeah.
tell you what to put on the ticket. I mean, like that's
Training, training I think was more of a priority when I was there, and since I've left, they've sacrificed that. That's been the squeaky wheel that's not getting the grease. And I like how you said you had to walk them through. So this is like kind of a slice of my day. I get on calls with account managers who have not been trained adequately or at all in some cases on teleperformance stuff or on listing suspensions or on account suspensions. I'm on calls with clients and the account manager, and I'm telling them how to escalate stuff internally. I mean, I haven't been there for a few years. They should have been trained on that before they even started being an account manager. I mean, these people are, you're paying for an account manager. Some people, a lot of our clients are paying $5,000 a month for an account manager. And they just tell you to open up an SAS ticket, and maybe that generates a response that has something to do with anything. Or maybe it's just a generic copy and paste. Well, usually it's just the same stuff you'd get from support, or like you said, nowadays from seller performance. This isn't the right information. You committed an infraction. No discernible reason why you're even reading that response. It wasn't even worth sending, let's be honest. So, but internal escalations are a different ballgame now. Account managers can't do as much as they did before because they don't have as much visibility into what's going on with your account. They don't have as much access into seller performance teams that they used to because of the past abuses that we were talking about.
Yeah, and
So
which is
I'm coaching them. I mean, first of all, I was
yeah.
never an account manager. I was seller performance. I wasn't ever a SAM, a strategic account manager. Secondly, why am I training them on why is Amazon de-emphasizing training to the degree that people are on a call with their own seller and they can't offer any assistance? I mean, that makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I mean, it's an absolute travesty and kind of a joke that people are paying for an account manager and literally getting, not getting the service that they're paying for. I mean, I remember when they launched,
I mean,
that.
sometimes they do,
No,
but
I'm sure, and
not it.
there are benefits. No, I'm
Yeah,
not saying there's no benefits, but
right.
I mean, the fact that you're actually, these giant, generally it's larger brands because they have the money to pay
Mm-hmm.
these, account managers, and you know to me, it's like if you go to a different platform, right? They're begging for you to be on that to bring them that business.
Mm-hmm.
They'll, throw all kinds of stuff at you, and that's how Amazon used to be. And to me, it's so counterintuitive to me
Yeah.
that they don't still operate in that manner. Because why wouldn't you take care of? I think it was the stat is what only 5% of brands on Amazon make more than 1 million in sales a year. I think it's right around there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Sounds right.
honestly, the investment in providing that 5% with an account manager seems like a no-brainer. But then I guess they figure, hey, they're not going anywhere. Like I said, they're getting 90% of our business. Where
Yeah.
are they going to go? Ha ha ha. And honestly, I think that's why so many sellers on Amazon, excuse me, are so frustrated because they literally can see right in front of their face that Amazon's like, we don't care about you, you know? And to me,
Yeah.
that's where the real displacement, I think, somebody has an opportunity there. Walmart has failed to me, Walmart should have, if I was Walmart, I would have courted very few sellers, but had a super strategic onboarding where it's like a
Mm-hmm.
white glove. I would go after that 5% on Amazon, say, we want your brand. We are going to put all your products online. We are going to work with you. You're going to have free labor. You're going to have a
Oh
dedicated
yeah.
account manager. I mean, that's
They
how they
missed
could
their
have.
window. Honestly, I think they missed their window, and now they're just scrambling to catch up.
Yeah, I mean the
So
Walmart interface is even worse than Amazon's, which I didn't think was possible. I mean,
good point.
yeah. If
Yeah.
anybody from Amazon wants to hire me to help you guys with your onboarding, let me know because I'm pretty sure I could do a slightly better job of what's going on right
I
now
mean,
because
yeah, what we spend a lot of time coaching sellers on, obviously strategy, not just like here's how you write a plan of action. I mean, there's a lot of info, basic info out there, but bring your best appeal, your strongest material to the table, knowing that even a good appeal might be rejected. So do not, in other words, rephrased, do not give them any opportunity to reject an appeal. Find any weak spot, have your best writer, your best communicator involved in that process. I don't know, it's different for big companies versus small, but just make sure you bring your A game every time. Because if you fail a certain number of times, then they don't even respond anymore. And you spend half your time just trying to get them to review it again or getting them to respond. You can call account health service reps. You can talk to them. They may not know what's going on. They may have some denial notes. They might say it hasn't been reviewed yet. But the bottom line is we're still seeing what we're spending most time with our clients talking about is the quality of their appeal. We still see people writing really long ones or really muddy, hard to read ones or badly formatted ones. And it's just like, those days are over. If they see anything that looks remotely in the wrong format, wordy, extraneous, unrelated content, too long, jumbled up, doesn't make sense, they throw it away. They do not waste their time on that. So there's no way you can afford, I mean, if you're losing thousands a day or a week because your top selling ASIN's down or your whole account is down, I mean, most people we work with cannot risk just losing this business forever. So apply that interest in getting the best written, best composed appeal in front of them, because you don't want to hand on a platter a good excuse for them to skip it or throw it away.
yeah, when we were going through that cycle of our ASIN, being suppressed and then trying to, like I said, I think it was 21 days it took them to finally
Oh
get our
boy.
product back up. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was, I mean, we probably lost 20 to 30,000 net just on those
Mhm.
few weeks because it's,
Yeah.
it's a holiday product. So yeah, it was extremely frustrating. And like I said, this is not the first time that we've lost, if you're talking about, Amazon policy costing us money, we're
Mhm.
probably in the well, six figures at least, probably $200,000 to $300,000. I could easily pull out that, from suppressed products, from, hijacking, from, easily, probably more.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
so
worth, like, sometimes people show me stuff and I tell them right away to start escalating it. Like, oh, you're never going to fix it like that.
yeah,
They'll say, well, we did a POA and they tell me what they've been doing for 7, 8, 9, 10 days. And I'm like, yeah, that was a total waste of your time.
yeah,
You're on the wrong path. Sometimes it's easy for me in like 30 minutes or even 15 minutes just to look at something and say, stop what you're doing, flip it around, reverse, do
right.
this a completely different way, escalate it to a totally different place, but change your strategy fundamentally. I don't care what support told you. That's why I chuckled at the seller support reference at the beginning of this, because we spend so little time, I should say, with seller support. They give such awful advice, or they just send you down the wrong road.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like, I love getting to the problem early in the process. If you're stuck early on, just show it to me, because I can just
yeah.
tell you, like, disregard what account health told
Yeah,
you.
well,
It's
the
wrong.
other problem too is they took away friggin' seller performance email address. You can't even contact seller
I know,
performance
wrong
anymore.
channel for the appeal.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's an absolute, it's
Ludicrous.
just it's yeah, absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you've got me on a good subject that I think will serve our audience well in terms of like, give me kind of an outline of, say your account's been suspended. Give me
Hmm.
best practice in terms of, if people can't afford to hire you, or they're maybe early on or something,
Yeah.
what's best practice that, people can take if they have to write an appeal?
Yeah. If you're writing a plan of action and you don't have enough information, start by gathering as much information as you possibly can on, let's say, what the nature of the complaints were, whether they're item condition or item quality complaints. Used, sold as new, / inauthentic. Those are, a high percentage of the ones we deal with. So if you can't get it from voice of the customer, negative feedback, wording of return reasons, wording of the feedback or claims, and voice of the customer, if you can't do that research and dig it out there, I mean, don't expect Amazon to put it in the messaging when they take your account down, right? They want you to research it. Call account health services, figure out what the nature of the complaints were. Why do I say that and emphasize that? I want you to make sure you get the root causes much, much better than what I see on the average day. A lot of sellers don't realize that if they mess up the root causes, which is like the first box, the first part of the appeal in the appeal form, The investigators don't read all the wonderful information that you may have put below it. If they think you didn't get the root causes right, they probably assume that the rest of your POA answers problems that aren't the root causes. So it isn't worth their time. And root causes aren't what went wrong. That's what a lot of people say, just for shorthand. What do you put in that box? They already know what went wrong. They need new information from you. They need analysis and interpretation from you, why those complaints came in, how the problem resulted in those complaints or tumbled down to the point where people were complaining in batches or clusters, right? A lot of this is looking at information annotated on your account, automated annotations of buyer complaints perhaps, but don't just say you suspended me because of inauthentic complaints because buyers complained about the quality of the items. Done. That's like due to what? Right. Take it a step further, complete that thought. And so that's kind of one thing I've been harping on lately with people is you showed me root causes in a draft that you put together. And I do 1 hour consults. Those people aren't hiring us to do it. We're just coaching them and consulting them on the quality of their POA. I always spend a lot of time on the root causes because I still see people missing the point and starting off on the wrong foot. And then it's like the odds that somebody reads that all the way through are really nil at that point.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm no expert, but from what I've seen over the years, it seems like number one, the appeals are too long, right? These people don't want to read 3 paragraphs,
meandering.
Right? Yeah. So that's one of the big issues. The other issue I see is not falling on the sword, right? Not admitting, blaming something else or some, the ship station wasn't working, that they don't care about that. They could care less because once again, their end result or their want is customer satisfaction, right? They don't care how they get it. They don't care, we had a snowstorm today. You can maybe get a little wiggle room on that, but honestly, they want you to fall on the sword and tell them why, how or why this won't happen again.
In the rest of the POA, I think people are aware that they have to fall on their sword more now than a few years ago, but they're falling on their sword the wrong way. They're just putting, I apologize for this. Okay, that doesn't really say anything. It's fine to apologize. That's one sentence. What about the rest of it? Right. Or saying, we made mistakes. They want a diagnostic. You made mistakes how? Why weren't they caught earlier? You made mistakes due to what? That's what I mean when I say make the root causes a diagnostic section. It's not that difficult. It's not so much of a mental leap from this happened, it was bad, it went wrong. Okay, why did it happen? Just take apart the problem. You're probably doing that anyway to identify the solutions as you would on any business problem, right? Whether for your own website or on some other platform. That's really all this is. It's like a due diligence exercise. Well, we figured out what had to be fixed. We figured out why it broke. We lacked oversight over the team that was responsible for the software we were using, and therefore some items shipped late, whatever it is, performance, policy. We lacked oversight over the suppliers we were using. We didn't inspect, we didn't have good enough quality control. Just explain that, finish that thought, explain that a little more. Well, we didn't have a dedicated employee responsible for it. It's not enough to say, we take full responsibility, we're sorry. That's what a lot of people are doing to fall on their sword. And that's all they're saying. They're not taking it to the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. We recently, our account got nabbed for seller fulfilled Prime. They had a new, I think it was like small and light or something like that. And I didn't realize when we implemented it that there was a price limit, which I was like, small and light, as long as the product's small and light, like what does the price matter, right? But I guess they're probably looking at it from a fee standpoint or something. I don't know. Right. But I didn't realize that. And we enabled our whole catalog that we had that we normally seller fulfill anyway, because we could do that. We had the capability to do it. And we ended up, getting nabbed on it. And, my response was, hey, I didn't read the implementation documentation as well as I should have. Next time we're going to deploy it to like one product to make sure that we can test, to make sure that we understand the process completely. And, I'm just using that as an example where, flip it to the Amazon side. If you were Amazon, if you owned Amazon and, customer satisfaction was your primary concern, what are you expecting to hear? You have a meeting, you're a busy entrepreneur, just like you really are. You've got something to go to. So keep it short, concise, deconstruct it, all those kinds of things. Is that pretty much on point, Chris?
I think they need to get back to the basics in terms of don't overpromise and underdeliver. If they're going to tell you you're going to have an answer in 2 or 3 days, unless it's emergency mission critical, we won't be here in 3 days. Most sellers are patient and willing to wait, but make sure you deliver in 2 or 3 days and not just a canned generic response. If it's going to be thoroughly researched, if they'll have a quality answer in 3 days, then go ahead and make the promise. Otherwise, don't do that. At the same time, I don't think they should say it'll take 7 to 10 days either.
Right,
But
right.
promising things that they have support reps making tons of promises that nobody backs up. I mean, that's what really undermines the trust and the faith in the marketplace or the teams managing it, to the point where you see it. I know from some of your experiences, and you know that I'm used to it, so I see it and it doesn't maybe drive me as crazy as the average seller. But you see that anyone who thoughtfully went through all of these teams, how they operate, who's managing them, like you might see with a new CEO, for example, would identify so many flaws that they'd almost say rip it up and start again, or go chunk by chunk, and every month we're going to improve the tools and the teams that are responsible for fixing these problems. But no high level manager, VP, so forth, team executive would look at what's going on now and say, this is okay the way it is. We only need minor tweaks.
Yeah, and I honestly think, the polls that they have on the Seller Central dashboard are worthless. What would be a better poll would be, what current interface or what tool on the dashboard currently does not work well for you. Like, what should we concentrate on next? Should it be the PPC dashboard? Should it be, the listing? Like, to me, that's actually useful in terms of like taking actionable steps to fix some of the major blaring issues. I already know if seller support would be, if seller support was on that list, I know that would be the first choice every single time, because if sellers get roadblocked, then that's the biggest frustration, right? I know early on I used to, like, in the past when we have products taken down, I would lose it. I'd want to punch holes in the wall, and I finally gotten to the point now where I go, that does nothing. What can we do instead to be proactive, right? Like that's really what it comes down to when dealing with Amazon. Is you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get pissed off. You just have to accept that and figure out what else you can do to make the issue better.
Honestly, I mean, high revenue level, long-term brands that are doing a lot of business on Amazon that have been there for a while, they listen at least occasionally to those people, those sellers. So if you can somehow finagle them into backing up, and there are some large sellers that have been around for a while that do go to bat for the seller community, and they do have Amazon's ear, at least to an extent. What they're missing usually, and that's what they come to us for, is I've got a great relationship with my category manager, but there's not enough synergy between my account manager, my category manager, seller performance, and me. Like, we're four points on the square, but we're not getting it done on all 4 quadrants of the square. That's where the needle needs to move. So they have a good relationship maybe with the account manager, but no relationship with the category. And they're a huge player in the category. They could be doing millions per month. Category managers do come and go. Sometimes account managers do as well. That's another thing. It's too much turnover.
Yeah.
But those are the sellers that need to say, look, we love Amazon. We're not leaving. We want to help. We'll fill out your surveys, but show us some sign that it's not just us. It's not just my problem. There are tens of thousands of sellers dealing with the same thing.
I was just about to say that's spot on. Is fill out the surveys, people. I mean, I know it's a pain, and normally I don't fill out surveys, but for Amazon I do, because it's part of your business, right? Like, if you fill out these surveys and let them know what they need to work on, it's going to be better for everyone. I know that a few years ago, I spoke to one of the high level people that was working on the new PPC dashboard, and I have my own PPC tool. I said, you're probably going to steal business from me, but these are the essentials that you need to nail in order for people to spend more money on your platform. They don't. There's some such basic stuff that you're not offering. That go look at AdWords. Just a few things there that you guys can. I mean, the fact that you still
adopt.
Right. The fact that you still can't go through, like, I can't go through the lifetime of my campaigns. I can only go to like 60 days, and it's just like these limitations that are super frustrating. They are working on it. It's much better. It's so much better. But there's still a lot of work to be done.
I think eventually they'll turn the corner. They have to be willing to listen. I mean, I know sellers that have gone to Seattle and shown them lots of data, lots of examples, and they're listening to an extent, but they have to listen with interest for the purpose of taking action. They can't just be a soundboard.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Chris. So we once again, whenever I do a big bitch fest at Amazon, which I've sort of done again,
Mhm.
I still think there's tons of opportunity there. I think that if you're still working a 9 to 5 job, there's still so much opportunity on Amazon. Like Chris was saying though, you really, even more so now than ever, you really have to learn the platform. With doing the podcast like this, that's what I'm trying to help you guys with. There's so many free resources now. When I started, there was literally nothing. I think Amazon Selling Machine had just started to come out. And some of those courses, which really nowadays you really don't need them. I'd say you're better off investing in coaching or like more of a mastermind thing than any type of training. Get the training for free online, podcasts, all those things. Get the basics down. We did
I
this.
just started a seller performance podcast, by the way. Just launched it today. So
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Where can people find it?
yeah, so seller performance solutions. Maybe I'll have you link to the first episode or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
When we publish the episode, let me know and
and then
we'll link out to it.
your listeners for the next 30 days, you can book an hour consult with me for the price of a half hour. So
Cool. All right.
I've got a code, well, the seller roundtable code, but
Okay. Yeah.
I'll give you that.
All
Mhm.
right. Awesome, Chris. Thanks. So in terms of we got a question from Mike. He said, how often are seller accounts hijacked and what should sellers do when that happens?
So does he mean the listings themselves are taken over by another party with
Yeah,
flat
I'm not
file
sure. Hey, Chris.
abuse or
Yeah, Chris, do you mean like a specific listing, like a listing
like an account
hijacking or the
compromise?
entire account? The entire account thing shouldn't be happening much anymore now that they've forced people to two-factor auth.
Yeah.
That should be happening a lot less now.
Happens a lot less. It still happens, but that's
Yeah.
just basic security.
Right.
Don't fall prey to phishing emails.
Yeah.
Listing
exactly.
hijackings are interesting. I don't know. The word hijack, by the way, gets misused. The way Amazon views it is somebody took over your whole listing and they made changes to it, and you're the private label brand, and you have no control over your own listing. To Amazon, that's what hijack means. In the seller community, it often means I've got hijackers on my listing. I can usually tell how the emails are phrased when they come to me. They
Right.
mean there are so-called resellers on their listings.
Right. There's somebody stealing the buy box. Yeah.
Something like that. So I
Yep.
actually discourage people from using the term with Amazon itself, because they'll totally misinterpret what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Mike was saying the account.
Account
I assume it'd have
compromises, yeah, I
a
mean, they
lot
still
less.
happen. There's a password reset process if you're not hearing back from seller support. This is another reason why it's such a tragedy that, like you said, the seller performance email queues have been sealed off for everyday stuff. That's what people used to do. They used to write emails to seller performance. Hey, I opened a ticket with support to reset my password. It stalled. It got closed. It's been a few days. That's something where people were actually hiring us, which, you're talking about at least a few grand to get us in to solve a problem with escalation emails. That wasn't even necessary. I mean, that's something where Amazon can just make it so that if your account's compromised and running through the initial password reset process doesn't work, or they're in the process of sanitizing your account and they haven't finished it yet and you have to jumpstart them a little bit, you should be able to send an email to seller performance or call in to account health reps and say, what's the holdup, or open a ticket with seller support. Like, why is that so difficult? I can't explain.
Yeah, Mike, I don't know if you're currently going through that, but I mean, in the
Yeah.
past, Amazon has always discouraged you from opening multiple tickets. But honestly, I have to say that's not true. And they might hate me for saying that, but what I will do is, if my issue isn't getting solved, for seller support, I will go through and open multiple tickets in multiple categories that are relevant to my issue. So I might open, if it's like a listing issue, I'll open one with the catalog team.
Good idea.
And I might go in back and open one up with general account help. Because what will happen is just like any major large company, you'll get people who just hit the reply with the template, and then you'll get the few, after the third or fourth ticket that you open, you'll get the one person who's actually like, I want to do my job, and they will actually help you. So, just getting ready in case. So like we were saying, that really doesn't happen much anymore, Mike. Just make sure you have two-factor authentication on, which just means like your cell phone number that they send you a code to log in. The other thing is that, Amazon and all these other large companies now are looking at a lot of different factors. So it's really, really hard for people to hijack accounts now. They're looking at IP addresses and locations.
Yep.
I mean, people can still use VPNs and things, but they're also looking at things like your, browser, your browser version, what extensions you, I mean, there's all these fingerprints that they can use now to track you, which is terrifying, but that's
Well,
how
and
they
don't,
can keep you away from getting
yeah,
hijacked.
sorry for
Oh,
interrupting.
no,
I
please.
had one tip. The email address you use as the primary email associated with your seller account, don't use it for anything else. Don't have it out in the world. Don't have it known. Don't have it as the customer support email on your website. Make it dedicated to your Amazon account so that somebody else can't target it. Sounds basic, sounds simple, but I'm still hearing from a lot of sellers that are using the same email address for all kinds of stuff. And
Yep.
it's just dangerous to do that.
Yeah, and the other thing you can do too is just use a very complex email that can't be brute forced and also not share it. Just get a Gmail with like, super long Gmail with
Alphanumeric.
random strings. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because then brute forcing, if you guys don't know what brute force is, it's a computer that literally will just try different combinations over and over again. Once again, these services are getting good at detecting that and deterring it. But it can still happen.
Mhm.
But those are just some of the things you should look at. Marina's saying that brand registry support is much better than regular seller support. Absolutely. But once again, it gets out, right? Like, it's just like when the captive team got out, when Jeff at Amazon got out, once people know where they can go to get actual support for seller
Yeah.
support, everybody floods it, then they shut it down. So unfortunately, it's whack-a-mole. And I don't think we're ever going to get back to the point where you can actually call somebody on the phone to Amazon that will actually, help you, in a expedited manner. You might get help in a week or
Not
two,
with
but
brand registry. Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen brand registry stay as relevant and useful as it had been in the beginning. But
yeah. I mean, the only thing that's been really, really helpful for us is the what is it called? Not Clear. It's the one where you can take down people off your listing
oh,
when
the
they're
IP, the infringement tool.
the
That one.
infringement
Yeah.
tool.
Hmm.
And believe it or not, people, that was a huge improvement. I mean, that time where I
Oh
said
yeah.
that early on we got hijacked for the entire Q4, we could have gone in and used that tool and been back up in like 10 minutes. So there
Yeah.
are automation and there are tools that they can build. But once again, I just think that they need a little bit more human oversight on that. But like Chris was saying with Andy, the new CEO, hopefully that we can, we'll see some changes for the positive. Even if it is machine, implemented, he might be a master at that and figure out how to, actually give sellers great support with automation, which I'm fine
Mhm.
with. As long as the problem gets solved, I could care less, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. I agree.
All right, Chris. Well, we've filled just about our hour. So thank you so much for being on. Once again, let people know how they can get in touch with you, your website, if you want to
Yep.
share your social, any of that, let people know.
Yeah. So I mean, well, the Facebook group is Amazon Seller First Class. The website is e-commerce Chris, and if you need to email me directly, it's Chris CHRIS at e-commerce Chris. And we'll have the offer for the next month for any of your listeners to half off the 1 hour. So 1 hour initial consults, not so expensive, in a good way to kind of give you some strategy points, dissect a couple of causes, and talk about solid responses you can send into Amazon that'll be meaningful to them. If they don't review it, we can always talk escalations for half an hour. It's up to you.
Yeah, the other cool thing is when, if you jump on a call with Chris, he could actually probably give you some preemptive stuff too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if your listings get taken down and stuff, he can kind of help you maybe have a plan of action, before it happens, so that, if it does, you don't have to try to scramble and find somebody to help you. You can, maybe implement what he's giving you on that call. So, I know that a lot of people, like when they book me sometimes, like, wow, that's really expensive. But then when they're done, they're like, wow, man, you just saved me. Like one of my clients, was like, man, you saved
Right.
me literally thousands of dollars because I didn't know about any of this stuff. So, sometimes it's worth
Yeah,
getting on with the experts and really getting stuff nailed down.
I agree. I mean, most of the time we're working with people who are losing thousands a day or a week at least. So
Right. So the the investment's a
you're cutting the
no-brainer.
timeline, you're cutting your revenue losses by bringing us in sooner. I mean, I implore everyone not to wait until their sixth or seventh or eighth appeal before they contact us, because that's a whole other can of worms and a whole other problem.
Yeah,
You've
absolutely.
lost their attention at that point. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much. Everybody who's joined us in the live call today. Thank you guys so much. We love having you here to get your questions. If you guys haven't joined us, we do this live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. You can join us in the Zoom call, be part of the podcast, be part of when we do live. We love having you guys in here because then we can actually get great questions from you guys. So thank you for everybody who's been in here. As usual, you can rate, review, subscribe on all the major podcast platforms. Thank you guys so much for all of you who've done that. We just got another great review. So really thank you guys for that. Look out for Chris's podcast coming to you soon. We'll let you guys know when that is. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see everybody on the Seller Podcast next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for live Q&A and bonus content after the recording at sellerroundtable.com. Sponsored by the ultimate software tool for Amazon sales and growth, sellerseo.com and amazingathome.com.